Starting October 1st, EA will be introducing advertisements at the beginning and end of our podcast episodes. Ad-free feeds will be available for subscribers through Patreon. Sign up now and lock in the $5 a month ad-free rate before the October 1st price increase. Visit patreon.com/EA podcasts for all the details, and we'll talk more about this after the story. PseudoPod, episode 989, August 15th, 2025. This week's story, Dimorphism, by Jessie Ann York, narrated by Marie Lestrange. Hosted by Alistair Stewart, audio by Chelsea Davis. Content warnings galore this week, folks, including animal harm across multiple species, gaslighting, abuse, and self-harm. As is always the case, please do what is best for you. Welcome to PseudoPod, the weekly horror podcast. I'm Alistair, your host, and this week's story comes to us from Jessie Ann York. Jessie Ann York's stories have been featured at several professional rate horror markets, including Us, Bastarian, Cemetery Gates Media, Love Letters to Poe, and more. Her first two stories, Faces of the Shadow and Women of the Mere, were mentioned as standouts in the summation section of the Best Horror of the Year, Volume 13, and her two most recent short stories, Dimorphism and Mother of the Wind, were mentioned as standouts in the summation section of the Best Horror of the Year, Volume 16. Her creative work is represented by Elizabeth Copps, the founding agent of Copps Literary. Dimorphism first appeared in Seasons of Severance, an anthology collection hybrid published by Gates Media in 2023. The short story features recurring characters who appeared throughout the rest of York's mini-collection within Seasons of Severance. York's interconnected short stories are primarily set in rural Middle Tennessee, where she grew up as a child, playing in the creeks and caves. Your narrator this week is Marie Lestrange. Dr. Marie Lestrange is an artist, musician, and author with a particular interest in historical horror. As the author of T is for Torture and S is for Serial Killers, she has created unique and chilling parodies of classic ABC children's books that are certainly not for children. In addition to writing, Dr. Lestrange co-hosts and produces the Moths to the Flame podcast, drawing inspiration from her research into the macabre, true crime, and occultish practices. Her debut novel, Crimson Cobblestones, is out from Crimson Cult Media, and she and her writer husband also love travelling with their little hobbit outside of the East Tennessee mountains they call home. Try to focus past the noise. It's true, but try. Please.
Dimorphism, written by Jessica Ann York, narrated by Marie Lestrange. Laura pours milk across her skin the first night the wolf spiders begin to bother her. It turns her bathwater cloudy and congeals around the edges of her drain. She won't dry herself before getting under the bedsheets, but she will check her email twice. It's 3:30 in the morning. Her phone screen is the only light in the studio apartment. The wolf spider's eyes glow white in their stacked cages along the corner of the room. For the most part, the wolf spiders don't move, aside from the occasional shuffling of their 3-clawed toes as they groom their gray legs. Sometimes they turn restlessly in circles, laying down a nest of urticating hairs in their webs. Sometimes they flick their hairs at nothing. It's these invisible barbs that irritate Laura's skin whenever she opens their cage doors and stirs the air to feed them crickets and mealworms. They never try to bite her. They never try to escape. They have no need to. Laura imagines they know she's keeping them safe, while Oliver, her fiancé, is finishing up his visiting lecturer position at Newman University. Out of the 12 wolf spiders, there is only one that takes an interest in Laura. All summer long, he taps at the plexiglass, like a hand knocks on a door. She wants him to stop. She wishes Oliver would come home. Did you look up the definition of a psychopath? Laura is surprised when her therapist opens their session with this question. The past month, it's always Oliver and his wolf spiders. She knows her therapist doesn't like that she's been left alone for a year to babysit them. I looked it up, Laura lies. She didn't. She remembers the definition of a psychopath from Psychology 101, her freshman year of college, almost 20 years ago, and how it made her throat lock up. Did the definition fit you? The therapist strums her fingers across a piece of paper face down across her lap. Her name is Lizzie. The room she uses for her therapy sessions is ripe green, like her eyes. The entirety of her house has Brazilian cherry flooring, red like the constellation of freckles on her palms. There are no photos of family or kids on her walls, just impressionistic oil paintings of figs or flowers. In the open kitchen beyond Lizzie's living room, leftover shells of escargot dapple a lone dish alongside an empty wine glass. Laura assumes she is much younger than her, probably late 20s. I mean, not at first glance, but what if... Laura crosses her legs and fights the urge to scratch at the hives concealed underneath her jeans. She doesn't want Lizzie to know about her reaction to the wolf spider's gray hairs. She gets so embarrassed around the younger woman for some reason. Your anxiety is telling you you're a psychopath, Lizzie says. Or I'm just pretending to have anxiety so people don't think I'm a psychopath. Laura bites her lip. Psychopaths don't worry about being psychopaths. Lizzie pinches down the far left corner of the paper in her lap. But that line of paranoid thinking is exactly something a person with an anxiety disorder would have. It is? Laura's eyes retreat to the window. Her heart is in her throat, and she can't tell if it's from the hives or Lizzie is validating her. Laura, did someone ever call you a psychopath? Lizzie narrows her eyes as she leans forward. Someone close to you? It wasn't Oliver, if that's who you're thinking. Laura squeezes down on her engagement ring. You sure are quick to defend him, regardless. Lizzie's lips purse as she unfolds the corner of her paper. Why is that? You always jump to protect. It was a friend, in grade school, a girl. Laura is quick to keep the conversation from switching to her fiancé. He's the part of the session she doesn't like. Why can't they stay focused on her problems? She's tired of explaining Oliver's research over and over again to people. She'd rather talk about the email she's been waiting for. I want to know why you get so angry whenever I bring up Oliver, Lizzie says. But I'm not angry. Laura's eyes fall away from the window, hurt. Do I look angry? The first time Laura realized people were afraid of her was in preschool. Her family lived on a farm 25 minutes from Shelbyville, Tennessee. Parents scheduled play dates with Laura so their kids could see the animals. They had chickens. Lots of chickens. Laura's family sold the chickens at fairs and farmers markets. It got to the point where the fowl were so popular, her parents kept buying more to breed back to back, until the birds were packed against the walls of the coop, wings battering and scraping against the walls. Laura would notice trampled shells when she fed the chickens. The blood-tinged yolk oozed an amber as sickly as the birds' glossy eyes. It didn't take long before some of the hens got curious enough to taste their own nectar. Laura knew that they were just hungry. She didn't think much of it the first time she saw a hen finishing off an already broken egg. After all, Laura liked her eggs scrambled too. She told herself the bird was just making sure the leftovers didn't go to waste. What she didn't know was, once a hen learns she can eat her own yolk, she'll cannibalize even the healthy eggs, and the other chickens will watch. The last day any playdates were scheduled at the farm, Laura led a group of children to the coop. The cracking and clucking from inside made a few of the kids' eyes water even before Laura opened the door. Dirt, shit, and blood steamed in the acrid air. All the hens were penetrating their own eggs. Scarlet chunks of chick dribbled from their beaks. The yolk congealed around their talons and fried in the hot summer air like a yellow fungus. Everyone ran away, except for Laura, who stayed to try and understand what was happening. No kids at the preschool would talk to her after that. There were whispers about how she just stood there, staring. How she was poisoned by a family of animal abusers. When Laura gets home from therapy, the email she's been waiting for arrives. She turns on every light in the studio apartment and dances. The wolf spiders inch closer inside their plexiglass cages, intrigued by the vibrations of her bare feet. Laura has not moved like this since Oliver left. The spiders chitter their front legs together in response, but Laura doesn't hear the purr-like noise. She doesn't feel the hairs in her skin anymore either. The assistant humanities professor job offer at the community college near her hometown is the only thing consuming her mind now. She is about to call her fiancé, the corner of her eyes blurring with hot excitement, until he texts her first. Thanks for always believing in me. Next visiting lecturer offer came in. Going to Notre Dame next. We'll work out details together soon. Love you, Ollie. The lights go out. Stillness crawls back over the apartment. Laura douses herself in another milk bath. A sour smell tinges her hot skin as the bone-white water practically curdles around her. The welts from the wolf spider hairs have begun to turn the inside of her pores a purplish gray. She rakes her nails across them and is surprised when she doesn't draw blood. She's surprised even more that she wants to. All the while, the wolf spiders continue to strum their legs together in the next room, as if pleading with her to start moving again. The purring makes Laura feel as if the hairs are digging deeper into her skin. She forces herself to take a deep breath and be happy for her fiancé as she sinks into the sheets. Only then, as she turns over toward the wolf spider cages in the corner of the room, does she notice one of the plexiglass cage doors is wide open. It's the one that belongs to the male wolf spider who's been tapping at her all summer. For the rest of the night, she holds her breath and waits for the strumming of his toes to return. And he hasn't bothered to call you yet? Lizzie no longer has her folded paper in her lap, only clenched fists. Laura is stunned by her therapist showing more rage than her, and yet, at the same time, relieved. It's validating. All week long, she's been beating herself up for not feeling excited for her fiancé. I'm sure Ollie's just scared to confront me. Laura takes a deep breath. He didn't tell me that he'd applied for another visiting lecturer position in the first place. The plan was always for me to travel for my dream job next. What are you going to do about this? Lizzie raises a fiery red brow. The therapist has her dinner for after the session, simmering in the background. The bubbling water is steaming almost as much as her. I don't know. Laura's voice trails off. She couldn't take her eyes off the pot, staring back at her in Lizzie's open kitchen. It looks and smells like frog legs. Mouth-watering, Laura leans forward to get a better look. Then she winces. The welts on her legs have turned her pores solid black. She can feel something hard and rotten pushing up inside them. She can't wear her engagement ring anymore. Her fingers are so swollen. She's also starving from all the built stress over the last couple of days. She can't bring herself to eat. What do you want? Lizzie is still so angry for her client. She hasn't noticed Laura scratching and drooling all over herself. Huh? Laura blinks. Forget about Ollie. Pretend he's not in the picture. Lizzie's eyes are as ripe as her fig-covered walls. What do you want? Laura can't answer. She's too scared of the dark words that could come spewing out, like the rot sizzling in the seeds of her pores. Her heart lurches up into her clotted throat. Her stomach feels so empty. The Brazilian cherry floorboards creak under the weight of the silence. The flowers on the wallpaper practically clench. As the two women wait for Laura to relieve herself of the growing bile inside her chest, a house spider scampers across the therapist's table. Its thread-thin toes fight to grip the glass with the weight of the woman's hollow stares. Lizzie jumps up without thinking and smashes the spider with her shoe. The arachnid pops apart at the abdomen, its legs shriveling on top of each other. Laura's eyes dilate at the sight of the liquid spurting from the flattened creature, the corners of her mouth twitching with desire. What do you want, Laura? The therapist asks again. The first time Laura realized she was afraid of herself was when she brought the praying mantis to grade school. She found them in her backyard the morning before show and tell. The bugs' green bodies were stacked one on top of the other, like chain links. They're in love, Laura explained to the class. They're having a baby. They're actually having babies. Probably around 300 per egg sac, the teacher said. Do your parents know you have these, Laura? The teacher's concern was outweighed by the rest of the class oohing and awing. The mantis were still very much attached to each other, the male riding the back of his larger female partner. It was the most explicit thing anyone had ever brought to a show and tell. Sex behind a net cage. For the rest of the day, it was all the class could talk about. They collectively named the female mantis Blaze for the amberish spot on her wings, and the male, Lucky. The class got to see just how lucky he was when they came back from recess and Blaze had chewed his right eye off. The male mantis twitched and flailed as the female braced him against her chest and sucked the green juice running down his throat. "I don't understand," Laura said. "I thought they were in love." "They are in love." The teacher had to raise their voice over the crying, traumatized children in the background. "Lucky is just showing his affection by letting Blaze eat his body for nutrition. For the babies." Laura couldn't look away as Blaze went for Lucky's left eye next. She wanted to see if it would splatter like a grape or a crack in splinters like a crystal. The wolf spider has been missing for a full week now. She calls Oliver once a day, but he won't answer his phone. He says he's too busy calculating final grades and packing for Indiana, but he'll call back as soon as he can. Texting is just easier right now. Can we at least call to talk about where I should look for the wolf spider? Laura's bare feet pound against the floor so hard her engagement ring rattles on the nightstand next to her as she texts her fiancé. "I don't want to touch it. Its stray hairs are already giving me an awful reaction. Did you see the pictures I sent you? Try the closets, windows, and around the doors. And keep pouring milk on your skin," Oliver texts back. "I'm tired of taking milk baths, Ollie. And I don't want to touch that spider when I find it." Laura's nails peck at the phone screen the same way the hens punctured the eggshells all those years ago. He doesn't respond after that, and she screams. The wolf spiders twitch from the shrill vibrations in the air. Laura shudders in front of their cages, mouth frothing wet with anger. That's when she hears it. The tapping. There's something tapping in her bathroom. Laura stalks toward the room, her fist threatening to pull out her hair as it gets louder. "What do you want?" Lizzie's voice echoes inside Laura's head over and over. "What do you want?" "I want it to stop!" Laura screeches as she throws open the bathroom door. The male wolf spider isn't trying to hide himself anymore. He's in the corner of the alcove bathtub, where the wall meets the grout, and he's always been, rubbing his gray hairs against the place Laura exposes herself the most. Something about Laura's screams had finally enticed him out. His toes thrum against the tub, like an impatient human hand. Laura fell in love with Oliver's research first. His doctoral dissertation at the University of Minnesota was focused on preventing sexual cannibalism in endangered insect, arachnid, and amphipod species. It was groundbreaking work that could help zoologists preserve viable male specimens for additional breeding opportunities. "I wanted to ask him why the female eats the male in the first place," Laura confided in Lizzie during her first therapy session. "Everyone on campus talked about his work, even in my humanities department. I would catch him carrying his wolf spiders in the plexiglass cages around campus almost every day. So one day, I stopped him and asked to get coffee." "And did he tell you what he did to those female wolf spiders to keep them from following their instincts?" The constellation of freckles on Lizzie's palms burned as she brought her hands together. A jar of chapelin salsa and garlic chips were spread out across the therapist's table from lunch. They rattled as Laura nervously stretched and bumped her shin against the glass top. "It's actually only the males Ollie experiments with." Laura cleared her throat, embarrassed. "Wolf spiders don't have urticating hairs, but he's specialty bred males that do, so they can defend themselves from hungry females." "Urticating hairs?" Lizzie echoed. "They're barbed and can be used to sting the girl," Laura said. "And he's left you all alone with these nasty hairs floating around in your apartment while he's lecturing in Newman?" Lizzie scowled. "Are they affecting you?" "I think it's for a good cause." Laura purposely avoided that second question. "I've seen cannibalism happen many times in animals. It's sad." "And did he tell you why?" Lizzie asked. "Why cannibalism happens?" Laura still remembers being confused by her therapist's vivid distaste. They were always so stoic in the movies. "No," Lizzie said. "Did Oliver tell you why he thought he should stop Mother Nature from happening?" The last time Laura trusted herself was when she had to bury the puppies in high school. Her family had an old herding dog named Jeannie that they thought was fixed. When Jeannie gave birth unexpectedly, the puppies weren't breathing. Apparently, the father was an escaped Chihuahua that belonged to the retired couple down the road. So, Jeannie did what dogs do and ate the dead puppies. Laura's parents had to call the vet, not believing the Google articles they found explaining this was a common thing. If the mother dog knows her young aren't viable, she cannibalizes them. Otherwise, the protein just goes to waste. No one in Laura's household could bring themselves to separate Jeannie from the puppies. They couldn't get past the chomping and slurping in the next room. But Laura could. She came home from school, heard the news about the Chihuahua that must have forced itself on Jeannie, then went to console her favorite dog. The one thing Laura remembers the most is the panting. Not the blood mixed with the sweet smell of Jeannie's broken water, not the remaining skulls that were too hard for Jeannie to break apart and swallow whole, but Jeannie's anxious, non-stop panting. The old dog had been locked up in the guest bedroom all day and didn't understand why no one wanted to see her. Shit and piss covered the tiled floor. As soon as Laura entered the room, Jeannie whimpered and nuzzled into the girl's arms, her fur damp with the stench. I don't understand how Jeannie could do that to her own babies, Laura overheard her dad whispering outside. Does the dog just not have any motherly instincts? What's wrong with her? No one would pet Jeannie after that, except Laura. The girl buried what was left of the puppies and moved on. The rest of her family still whispers about how eerily calm Laura was about it. Must have carried over from taking care of those chickens when she was little, her dad would say. Her and Jeannie are both a little messed up, I guess. Those words festered inside Laura until a day after a big storm when the neighbor's Chihuahua escaped a second time. She found the pathetic creature struggling to crawl out of the creek in the backyard behind Jeannie's kennel. The scrawny thing must have smelled Jeannie coming into heat again, then got stuck trying to reach her. It looked like a white maggot wriggling in the thick mud. Laura blinked at the small dog's shrill yapping once, then walked away. She had nothing to say when the neighbors knocked on their door, looking for it later. Her skin still crawls at night thinking about it. She's scared to ask why her immediate instinct was to do nothing. Back in the studio apartment, Laura moans as she pops the wolf spider's abdomen in between her teeth. Her tongue twitches from the urticating hairs, as if her taste buds dance over an open flame. She can't stop. It feels too good. After she swallows the first male over her bathtub, moving on to the others trapped inside their plexiglass cages just makes sense. They all wait for her, their little front toes battering against her hot skin in greeting as she extends her open palm to them. Each lovingly strums their legs along the inside of her mouth before Laura squishes their juices down her throat. The next morning, all the welts covering her body have burst. She wakes on the floor covered in gray bile and sweat. She takes one final milk bath and watches as the mucus lined with urticating hairs gurgles down the drain. Then, still naked, she opens her email and accepts the job offer that she's been waiting for. They stung the roof of my mouth like pineapple. Laura shivers at her emergency therapy session. Lizzie didn't hesitate to schedule a meetup after Laura called her sobbing that morning. Do you like pineapple? Lizzie lines her glass table with floral placemats as they talk. Yes, but... Then what's the problem? Lizzie turns away toward her kitchen. Several cultures in the world enjoy eating spider meat. You just have a sophisticated palate. Here. The therapist leaves the room and comes back with a charcuterie board of raw spoonworms, pan-seared boa constrictors, and deep-fried tarantulas. Cherries, raspberries, figs, and pomegranate all cradle the sides of the 3 different meats. Each of these are considered a delicacy. Lizzie pats her client on the shoulder before sitting down across her glass table. Don't ever feel strange for enjoying them. I don't. At first, Laura is speechless as she watches her therapist crunch down on one of the tarantulas like it's fried chicken. But then her stomach growls, and she realizes how much her tired body aches for more food. Texting Ollie the video of her engagement ring and what was left of the wolf spider's popped off legs spinning down her bathtub drain took all of her energy. She will never hear from him again, but she will start her new job at Motlow Community College near her hometown in 2 weeks. She'll also have an uncanny tolerance to any kind of bug sting or venom for the rest of her life. These animals are tinier in person than I thought they would be, Laura says as she brings the first deep-fried tarantula to her lips. That's because they're all male. Lizzie reaches for the charcuterie board. The females are the large ones in these species. Isn't that funny? The therapist leans back in her seat and swallows a raw spoon worm whole.
The mark of truly extraordinary writing is the communication of complex emotional landscapes with gentle but devastating language. Or at least that's what I always think of when one of Jessie Ann York's stories arrives here. I want to talk about one line. The first time Laura realized she was afraid of herself. That is a line that drew me up very short, very fast, for a very personal reason. I am 6'2" and physically large. If I'd been born in the US, I would have been a linebacker. Being born in the UK meant I was a prop, one of the 4 large guys who didn't run away fast enough, and as a result, have entire rugby scrums on their shoulders. I am very tall, I am very wide, I am very strong, and for a lot of people, I am perceived as an instant physical threat. So I dealt with that. For a long time, my posture was stooped, partially due to abuse and trauma, and partially due to physical choice. My voice, as you can hear, tends to be quiet and warm and rounded. I make a conscious effort to not stand between people and doorways, especially if they're people who aren't my gender or people I don't know. It doesn't matter that this is the tiniest inconvenience for me. It doesn't matter that I am more Benjamin Clawhauser than Bruce Banner. What matters is how other people feel. It took me a very long time to realize the one downside of this was that I was afraid of myself. I was a brain in a meat suit. I remember when I was a teenager and one of the few times my dad said something deeply unfair to my face. I don't remember what it was, but I remember him saying, "Does that make you angry?" Me, red-faced and seething, pulse racing, fists clenched, growling, "No!" and leaving the room. I am large enough that if I ever got angry and physical, I will hurt someone. That isn't a threat, and it certainly isn't a good thing, and it is most definitely not a boast. It is a physical fact. That is the last thing I ever wanted to do, and so I escaped that horror and I ran directly into another one by repressing basically everything. I let years of psychological and emotional abuse across multiple axes in my life break me into the shape that was easiest for other people, and it hurt. And it made me angry, and I did it anyway, because that is all I felt like I deserved. That is no longer the case. I'm always cautious about oversharing in these house spots, and I know that is a very strange thing to say after the last 4 paragraphs, but my circumstances changed drastically about, 15 years ago, and I changed with them. I stand straighter now. I've done work on connecting physically with the body I used to view as a car I could barely drive. I've accepted it's okay to feel angry sometimes. I am no longer afraid of myself. Neither is Lizzie. And the way York steps her out from an environment breaking her into a shape she doesn't want, into the literal top of the food chain, has 2 razor-sharp edges, or perhaps fangs. The most obvious is the breakdown of her reality we see in the final pages, and the casual way she approaches predation, a learned response from the way she was treated, and one she has learned very well. But the other is it's taken this long and it's hit this hard. She's never been just a victim, but now she is unbound, let free to sprint across her life with the wind in her hair and someone else's blood in her teeth. How you feel about that, in the end, is up to you. Her actions are monstrous, but are grounded in a monstrous context, one she had no choice but to respond to. Her new reality is terrifying and broken, but liberated and free, and her new reality, no longer victimized, not yet a monster. I wish her luck, and I check to make sure I'm not standing between her and the door. Fantastic work. Thanks to all. Now, let's talk about advertising. Starting October 1st, we're going to be introducing brief adverts at the beginning and end of our episodes. We surveyed our audience about this a little while ago, and a huge majority of responses not only said they had no issue with ads, aside from one thing we will get to in a bit, but asked us for an ad-free option for supporters, which we also now have. If you're a supporter, you'll get ad-free episodes plus bonus content. And if you subscribe before October 1st, you can lock in our current base rate of $5 a month forever. After October 1st, new subscribers will pay $7 a month. So, to run that back, you can get us for $5 a month forever before the 1st of October. And after that, it'll be $7 a month. The one thing folks did not want, by the way, is mid-roll ads, and we are right there with you. Mid-roll ads are ads that land in the middle of the episode, and I promise you, right now, on the record, in front of the whole entire internet, that we will never, ever do mid-roll ads. Ever. We're doing this for a few reasons. It helps us to continue to support our creators. We believe everyone in our ecosystem deserves to be paid for their labour. As a non-profit in an environment where grant funding is essentially a barren, featureless wasteland now, we need to balance sustainability with our mission, and our mission is one that we love, and that we can't do without you. We still need donations. We still need you. Think of this as an extra engine, not a replacement. So, thank you for listening and for helping us to bring free and accessible speculative audio fiction to listeners around the globe. And if you remember one thing from all of this, remember that you have until October 1st. Onto the subject of subscribing and support. PseudoPod is predominantly funded by you, our listeners, and we are officially a non-profit. One-time donations are gratefully received and much appreciated, but what really makes a difference is subscribing. And like I said, the subscription service is changing a little bit. But please, if you possibly can, subscribe. It gives us stability, reliability, dependability, and a well-maintained tower from which to operate. And trust us, you want that as much as we do. If you can, please go to PseudoPod.org and sign up by clicking on Feed the Pod. If you have any questions about how to support EA and ways to give, please reach out to us at donations@escapeartists.org. If you can't afford to support us financially, then please consider leaving reviews of our episodes or generally talking about them on whichever form of social media you're using to dissociate this week. Most of the time for us right now, it's Blue Sky, and we'd love to see you over there. Find us at pseudopod.org. If you like merch, you can also support us by buying hoodies, t-shirts, and other bits and pieces from the Escape Artists Void merch store. The link is in various places, including our pinned post over on Blue Sky. PseudoPod is part of the Escape Artists Foundation, a 501c3 non-profit, and this episode is distributed under the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license, and there are so many hyphens in that sentence that I even missed one. To be specific, it is the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 international license. That means you can download and listen to the episode on any device you like. Put it on a potato if you can. You can play Doom on a potato, but you can't change it and you can't sell it. Theme music is by permission of Anders Manga. Join us next week as something terrible emerges from the sea in The Hermit Crab God by Ego_bot. Chris Tang is your narrator, Kat is your host, Chelsea's working the audio incantations once again. We'll see you then, but before we do, PseudoPod wants you to remember, you can't hide. Run with the dogs tonight in suburbia.
An arm appeared from nowhere on the shape, seemingly projected like the pseudopod of a protozoan.
It's a pseudopod. It's a big foot.
It's all about podcasts these days.